Orion Corporation. And with me to present for the company, I have Jari Karlson, who is CFO. Good day, Jari.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning to you too. I'll simply hand over the word to you and you can start your presentation. I'll return in a moment to ask some questions.
Thank you. So, good morning to all of you on the line from Finland. So I will now walk you through a short presentation of Orion, who we are, and also what are the key drivers for our business now and in the future to meet our financial targets. So just to set the scene, a few words about Orion as a total for those of you who don't know us that well. So we are a Finnish-based pharmaceutical company, not a startup. So we have been around for more than 100 years. So Orion is a fairly old pharmaceutical company. We are roughly 1 billion in sales this year due to one-time deal, a little bit more than that, but the base business is roughly 1 billion. We have been for many years nicely profitable, and that of course is our aim to continue with that as well. We have a little bit more than 3,000 people employed, and roughly 70% of those are located in Finland, where most of our manufacturing sites are located, and also our R&D centers. Sales, on the other hand, we have in very large number of countries around Europe, and over the last few years we have expanded the sales presence also the Asia Pacific, where we have set up five operations in five countries. When it comes to the business split, we have still today, we actually are in the middle of changing slightly our organization, but that doesn't really have that big overall impact on these numbers. So this is where we today are. We have our proprietary product division, which includes the innovative part of our business, and also some of the Orion's legacy products that were invented by Orion, but over the years have lost already the patent protection, but still hold some brand value. And then we have specialty products, which then includes our generics business and our consumer health business operations. We have also an animal health business, and then we also produce pharmaceutical ingredients in our Fermion unit. We also do a little bit of contract manufacturing, but that's fairly small business. Geographically, Finland is the largest individual country market for us, so close to 1/3 of our sales come from Finnish market. And then when we add also the other Nordic markets, we are at roughly 45% of the total sales. Then roughly 1/3 coming from the other European markets, and then finally about a little bit more than 20% coming from markets outside of Europe. This year, the profits look quite different from the past year, and the main reason is that we did in the middle of the summer one very large out-licensing deal with Merck from US, and that's why the growth percentages look so good. I come back to a couple of words about that deal in the next slides. So this year we already have reached this 1 billion after 9 months, and that of course means a very healthy growth from last year. But like said, and also in the operating profit, the drivers for this year's extraordinary profitability and very fast sales growth is this one deal. So the underlying business, like we forecasted at the beginning of the year, is very much in line with last year's numbers. And that also is true to the operating profit margin. And of course, cash flow has also been very strong because of this one-time deal. So the year has been a very good one for Orion. And this has been really a very eventful year for the company. The year started in February when our most important partner today, Bayer, updated their estimate of Orion developed prostate cancer drug Nubeqa. This product originally was developed by Orion, and in 2014 we made an agreement with Bayer, and with that agreement Bayer got the global rights for the sales of this Nubeqa, and they also carried majority of the costs to develop that market to reach the market authorization. At those days, Bayer's estimate for the potential for the product was roughly 1 billion euros, and now they updated the potential to be 3 billion or even more. Orion's share of this product is roughly 20% royalty, and we also manufacture the goods, which of course, like you can very easily calculate that if Bayer really is going to reach their sales forecast of 3 billion, that would mean more than 600 million of annual royalty income at that point for Orion, which in our size of a company is a very, very high number. So very positive, and the updated estimate by Bayer was based on very successful phase 3 clinical study results, which allowed now Bayer to extend the target population for this product from the earlier stage prostate cancer patients also to the little later stage. So for people where the disease has spreaded also the other organs than prostate cancer. And this product really is the key driver for our next several years development. We also did change our research focus, narrowed it down a little bit. So this doesn't mean sales focus, but this is really the focus what we are doing in the early stages of our R&D. Oncology, that has been part our key driver or in research already for a few years and has resulted, for example, the Nubeqa product I discussed earlier. And then the other is now pain. Earlier we had a little bit broader central nervous system focus, but now we have narrowed it down to pain. We also have now, since the beginning of November, a new president and CEO for the company. The previous one, Timo Lappalainen, held that position for close to 15 years and has now retired. And Lisa Hurme came from inside of the company. She has been here for close to 25 years and has been member of the management team already for the past 15 years as well. So she is definitely not new to our business. And we are very happy to have somebody from inside to continue leading the company. And related to the pain focus, we made this summer a deal when we licensed in a very promising new molecule for pain. We also expanded our animal health business this year a little bit by acquiring a company which had operations in Belgium and France, and that more or less doubles the size of our animal health business. And the idea there was that our animal health business earlier was very dependent on the Nordic markets and also very dependent on many partnership arrangements. And this acquisition gives us more of our own products and also animal health product dedicated manufacturing facility. And then comes to the deal which I already mentioned when I discussed the numbers. So Orion and Merck announced a global development and commercialization agreement for ODM-208 program, which is also a treatment currently studied for prostate cancer. So another very, very good result from our oncology research. And what made this deal so important for us was that the MSD paid us $290 million as a signing fee to get the rights to this product, which in Orion scale is by far the largest individual agreement we have ever made. And this, of course, shows that we now have a very large partner, very much focused on oncology, and who also clearly, like one can guess from the numbers, has a strong belief in this molecule. This molecule is now in phase 2, and both parties are working hard to get it as soon as possible to the phase 3 stage. And based on the study result for the which I already mentioned in the Nubeqa, which then allowed Bayer to update their estimate for the sales, based on those studies, FDA in US has now already approved the extension of the indication also to the later stage patients in prostate cancer. In Europe, the approval is still under evaluation by the European authorities. And then we changed the organization a little bit. So that was the first decision made by the new CEO, Lisa Hurme, that we divided the human side of the business into 3 business units instead of the 2 we have had earlier. And all of those transactions we have seen this year and the news flow, they very much support our long-term financial targets. We have had these financial targets, you can see here, for quite many years. So we want to grow the business. Earlier, this statement was that more rapidly than growth of the pharmaceutical market on average. And a few years back, we made it a little bit more concrete that we want to reach 1.5 billion in sales in 2025, which is still a very ambitious goal, thinking that at this moment we are in roughly 1 billion. So we need to grow the company in a relatively short period by 50%. And this growth, the new backup product definitely plays a key role. We want to maintain a strong balance sheet with an equity ratio of at least 50%, and also our aim is to be a very profitable company. For many years, the company has been able to generate more than 25% of net sales level for operating profit. In some years, we have been slightly below that, but most of the time for the past decade or so, we have been at that level. And that is our aim also in the longer run. That doesn't mean that every year we need to be there, because we also need to make certain that we can put enough resources and effort behind development of the business. And in some cases, especially if there are very promising and good R&D programs, the spending on R&D might maybe have some slightly negative impact on the profitability. But that is a long-term goal, and we strongly believe that this is a very achievable goal also in the future. And then finally, we want to continue paying healthy dividends to the shareholders. And none of these targets is maybe growth is today the one which gets the most focus, but at the same time, we always need to remind people that the growth as such is not that important. It has to be the right type of a growth, which allows us to maintain good profitability, allows us to continue paying the healthy dividends. But it's clear that, for example, in today's environment, when their costs are rising, there is a lot of inflation. It's almost impossible to maintain high level of profitability if you cannot grow. So the growth is very important. And some of the growth drivers we have been discussing with investors and outside world many times. So already several times mentioned the new backup product for treatment of prostate cancer. That clearly is for the next 3, 4, 5 years the key driver of the growth of the company. Easyhaler, our product line for respiratory diseases, that is also still growing, even though it is gradually reaching its peak. Then animal health, we just recently did this acquisition, which of course adds to the top line of the company as well. But then in longer run, it's quite clear that the key driver for the long-term growth of Orion is very dependent on our capabilities to innovate and bring to the market new proprietary type of products, which really have some unique offering to the patients around the world. And here are listed some of those code names we are using. I will discuss a little bit more about those next page where there is a slide about our research pipeline. But on top of that, we also are active in licensing products. We have this European-wide coverage for sales, which we have also expanded outside of Europe recently. And we definitely are very interested in finding new products to sell for those good people we have in so many countries. So in-licensing is very, very important, and we also are looking more actively acquisition opportunities than we did in the past. The Innovet acquisition for the animal health was actually the first one we did for very, very long period of time. But we have come to the conclusion that even though the organic growth is still the key driver for in our strategy, we need to complement that with also in-licensing and M&A type of arrangements, because otherwise there is a risk that the growth will be very, very volatile, especially when it comes to the R&D, because as we all know, the predictability of success of R&D programs, especially when they are in very early stages, is not that high. So we know that most programs reaching the clinical phase will fail over the years, and that's why there needs to be also other means for growth than only our R&D. But of course, the upside potential for very successful R&D programs definitely is much larger than in the other areas. And of course, we have these other goals. So acquisitions sometimes are difficult to make if you also want to maintain high profitability and strong balance sheet. And then finally, a few words about the key clinical development pipeline. So of course, on top of these main products, we also are doing all the time work to develop new generic products, but they are as individual projects so much smaller that we typically have not listed them in this slide. We also do programs in the animal health side, but they are not listed here either, because they typically the overall impact for the group for individual animal health project is also much smaller than for the projects we are having here. So we have in the oncology, the key projects we currently have, we still have together with Bayer. Bayer actually is paying a majority of the cost, but Orion is carrying some part. So there are two different studies. The Arasen study is in the registration phase, so that was the one which triggered the Bayer to increase their sales potential, and it has been approved already in US, but in many other markets the process is still going on. Then there's another ongoing study which still will continue for a few years, which also then hopefully brings new potential for this product. And then we have this ODM-208 program, which we are now doing together with Merck, which is in phase 2 at this moment. And we are together with Merck going to work very hard to bring it as soon as possible to phase 3 as well. So a very good oncology pipeline, and of course the idea is then also to bring new products to phase 1 on regular basis. Then we have the pain molecule which we in-licensed this summer that has recently entered phase 1. It is a very interesting molecule because, as you probably have heard about this opioid crisis, especially in US, which means that there's a really high demand for product pain treatment medication that is not opioid based, and this product definitely is one of those. But it's still in fairly early stages, and it will take a few years before we really start having better understanding that how likely it is that we will be able to get to the market. But at least the early stages look very promising. And then we have from our older pipeline one product which is not pain or oncology, but because the molecule existed, we are planning to continue the development of ODM-105 program, which is aimed at psychiatric disorders. And then recently we actually have cancelled some Easyhaler studies. So currently we are not working on the Easyhaler platform anymore, more for new products. Might come times when we still do, but for the time being, mainly for commercial reasons, we decided that the probability of success compared to the market potential and the cost for developing was not good enough in these cases. But this is basically where we are. So very good, strong late-stage oncology pipeline. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more addition to that, and then some assets in the earlier stages as well. And this was the end of my presentation, and now there is 5 to 10 minutes time for questions.
Indeed, Jari, thank you very much. You mentioned that the growth for your Easyhaler has peaked. I'm curious to know more about that.
Yes, not yet, but we are closing. I mean, the growth over the last few years has very much been based on one combination product, which actually is a competing and a copy of AstraZeneca's large product, and by the time when we entered to that research or development program, we estimated that the existing older portfolio and this combination type of products jointly could generate sales of roughly 150 million at peak, and we still have a little bit road to reach that level, but we are currently already in clearly above 100, approaching 120 million or so. So there is still a little bit of growth opportunities, but then when comparing that growth opportunity of some tens of millions to the overall growth ambition of growing the business more than 400 million over the next 3-4 years, that of course is only representing a fairly small part of the overall growth target we have. Still important and currently still the largest product brand we have in our portfolio. But like I said, some growth opportunities, but only maybe of some tens of millions.
Tell us a little bit more about your generic drugs, because they still play an important role to you. I saw that 49% was specialist healthcare. What do you think about the future of generics in general? Will we see more or less emphasis on generics in the Nordic health?
Well, it is, of course, a very, very core part of our business, and one of the 3 new business divisions which have, one of them will be called Generics and Consumer Health, and that will be by far the largest of the business units we will have in starting from next year. So generics is a very, very important business for us. That was the origin of Orion, even though we have done research since the 70s and 80s and brought to the market quite many innovative products. But generics has provided us the basis for our business. Steady sales, steady profitability, steady cash flow, and that kind of a business allows us then to take the risk on the research side, which then on the other hand will bring some of the long-term opportunities. More than half of our generics sales currently come from Finland, where we are a dominating force. So we have roughly 25% market share of the generics business in Finland, which is an unusually high share or any company in any market, and we've been able to maintain that high share year after year after year. It's a combination of some of the large number of legacy products we are producing, but we also are very actively in licensing products from other generic players to whom we can then offer our sales platform, especially in Finland and other Nordic countries, and to some extent also in certain Eastern European countries where bulk of this business is coming from. And we believe that this will continue also. On the other hand, it has to be acknowledged that finding very rapid growth in that business is very, very challenging. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of pricing pressure, and of course now when added on top of that also for the first time in many years also clear cost pressures. So there are some challenges in the business, but for the time being it still continues to be a nicely profitable business for us, and we don't really see that changing in the coming years either, even though the overall margins of that business are gradually declining, but not very, very rapidly.
We have a question from the crowd.
Yes, so on the other side of the spectrum, rare diseases is also a very big big part for many pharmaceutical companies. Can you talk a bit more about why you chose to not go and develop more into the rare diseases area?
How come you're not developing more in the rare diseases area?
Well, I guess the challenge with the rare diseases really is that they quite often actually require fairly strong and heavy R&D anyway, and then of course the market potential, because they are rare, is then typically smaller. And our conclusion finally was, we've been looking at this, that this, if it was not the path we wanted to go. Of course, rare disease is a little bit strange term, because it can cover almost any disease areas. So you cannot develop only rare diseases. You also need to be expert in certain areas of rare diseases. But like I said, we've been considering that, but the conclusion has been that we probably will not anyway concentrate on those type of areas, but rather do something a little bit larger, and probably is due to our capabilities and the areas where we have our expertise.
We have another question from the crowd.
Yes. I'm wondering about your strategy for in-licensing. What kind of project characteristics are you looking for?
Well, we do in-licensing in because we have such a broad business portfolio. So one form of in-licensing, which we have been doing for years and years and years, is just to get generic products to complement our already very large portfolio. And that's an ongoing, and none of those projects as such or product as such will generate huge amount of revenue for Orion. So that's one. And then another thing is to on more of the branded and innovative side of the business. And there are two different. One is to find products that are already in the market, or at least very close to the market, which then for which we could utilize our existing sales presence in the market, and that would complement and help to get better use of the sales we already have. And then the other is like this pain molecule we licensed this year, is to complement our R&D pipeline, to find something which is in a little bit earlier stage, where we can take a larger role and then also develop the product on our own. So we are looking at both of those. And in the latter one, we are very much focusing on the same areas where we are doing research, meaning oncology and pain. When it comes to products that are closer to the market, this definition is not necessarily exactly as important, because we anyway already have existing sales and existing branded products in larger variety of diseases. So there we have a little bit more flexibility. For example, broader focus in the CNS area than only pain. But I guess those are the key things when we are thinking about in licensing.
All right. Do we have any more questions from the audience?
The animal health business, how is that different from other business areas in terms of the wider market? How does, for example, inflation impact your animal health business as opposed to your human medical business?
Well, I guess in principle, of course, the development of the products, whether it's for animals or humans, whether they are generic or more proprietary, there is not that much difference. Typically, the animal health product probably can be developed in a little bit shorter period of time. Then when we think of the market, of course, the target audience is different. So we meet different people, and that's why the sales forces also are in our case very, very, very separate. One big difference, though, is that in the human side, the governments have a very strong role in either forcing when the patents expire the business to move to generics, or they also are very much dictating the level of prices they accept in order to reimburse the products. And on the animal health business side, there's nothing like that. So it's more like negotiation and what you can offer to the market, and then it's up to each customer to decide whether they are willing to pay the price asked, but there's no government involvement. So it gives a little bit more flexibility, which of course means that in case of inflation pressure, it's easier also to change the prices in the market if the competition allowed that. That of course is always one needs to take into account. On the other hand, we have seen some signs on the animal health side this year that when the purchasing power of consumers is going down for the first time for a long period of time, we are seeing signs that people's willingness to spend as much money as they did in the past on their pets is maybe slightly lower. So from that perspective, different businesses, more pricing power, but at the same time also because government is not using tax money, also more dependent on what people can afford to do.
All right. Thank you very much, Jari.
Thank you.